Good morning to the Sports Carnival live from the Trauma Center studios, where the Packers season is falling apart faster than a leper in a windstorm. Here's your host, Dave Carney. I had a hard time getting that one out. I was like, I don't know, is that too much? Too soon?
Easy for you to say. A leper in a windstorm, huh? That's something. I haven't heard the term leper in quite some time, like since Mother Teresa got her sainthood. I think was the last time I really heard about lepers. But hey, listen, that's one of those islands that I think even right now you'd still probably pay a premium to go to, right? So you'd get this travel brochure and it would say, hey, get a half price ticket to where? Oh, it's a leper island? No, that's okay. We'll just go ahead and push pause on that one. Maybe we'll go get a couple of beets from Chernobyl Farms first, and then we'll go to the leper colony.
That's one of those you have to piece together. So,
how you doing this morning, big guy? We had an interesting-ish Monday night football game last night. The Bucs lost their first game of the season. You see anything interesting?
You know what? All I really saw was that Lamar Jackson is amazing. That's what I saw. He's just he's just one of a kind, and I don't know if there's. I know you can make some comparisons. I've kind of talked about this, like the best scrambling quarterback to ever live. He may be that guy.
Sure. Yeah.
It may be too early. Michael Vick comes to mind. Steve Young comes to mind. I know a lot of people don't think about this guy, but John Elway was a good scrambler. But this guy's a game changer, especially when they're kind of deficient a little bit. And running back, they've had some injuries, and they've had to ask more of Lamar Jackson. It's just amazing how he can get out of some of the situations. I mean, he reminds me a little of Barry Sanders, but playing quarterback, and he's got a hell of a gun. I don't know. I'm just really impressed every time I watch him.
So last night on the ESPN pregame broadcast, I was watching a bit of this because I've become a decided fan of the Manning cast. I really have. Ever since they launched this thing, I thought, man, the only two people that would do that better would be me and Chad. And so there we got the Sports Carnival going for various reasons. But in all earnestness, I'm watching the pregame before they go to the Manning cast, and I'm watching Steve Young break down exactly what you just mentioned. Dual threat quarterbacks of all time. Steve Young said something which sort of shocked and dismayed Booger McFarland and RG3 and Larry Fitzgerald and everybody that was at the table. He said, by my estimation and in my eyes, Lamar Jackson is the best dual threat quarterback that has ever played in the National Football League. And then he went through, Chad, a number of different metrics to show why Lamar Jackson is the best dual threat quarterback of all time. Lamar Jackson's done something that no other quarterback in the history of the NFL has ever done. Throw for 100 touchdowns and run for 4,000 yards in any 5-year stretch of any time in the history of the league. And it's not like players in the past, like you've mentioned John Elway's name. There were guys way before. Y.A. Tittle was kind of a scrambling quarterback.
Trent Tarkenton
probably invented that position. And listen, if the NFL was different, Fran Tarkenton today, if it would have been different back then, he would have been an even bigger superstar. The point that I'm going to make is when Steve Young, one of the guys that's in that conversation for greatest dual threat quarterbacks of all time, when he says this guy's the best, you can understand why. And there were some throws that, listen, last night Lamar Jackson made. I see that Soul Surfer Jason P1 Breacher says, wait, didn't Lamar 12 passes with several thrown at the feet of wide receivers? Hey, brother, but here's the thing. He completed 12 passes, and some of them were touchdowns, and he didn't even need 3 interceptions en route to losing and only scoring 9 fucking points. Like, we got to give this kid some credit. We can't sit here as Packer fans and pretend that it's like, oh, these guys suck. No, they're very good. And there was a couple of plays where, look, Lamar Jackson's not a prototypical quarterback. That's why he is a dual threat. But he's able to look off defenders. He's able to really use his eyes and use his checks, and he moves up in the pocket. The play that he made, the touchdown pass in the first half, was brilliant. It was beautiful. And I'm sitting next to my son, John, and he played a couple of seasons of football. Chad, not as many as you did, but he gets the idea of the game. And you look at how that play call was really worked up, the design of the play and the execution. Lamar's fantastic. He really is. Is he going to be, I don't know, throwing the Michael Vick perfect football or the Aaron Rodgers no-look pass? No, that's not what he's going to do. But damn, this guy's a fun watch. And I love that about the NFL. Give me somebody fun to watch, right? Talk about the NBA and Janus and these guys. Give me somebody fun to watch. Lamar, if anything, is really fun to watch.
Well, that's just it. You don't know what to expect. Every time you turn on the television and he's playing, you never know what you're going to get. but generally it's going to be exciting. And just like Barry Sanders used to do, he can make a losing play actually exciting, which is kind of fun. And, to Soul Surfer's point, there's one pass that he missed completely over the shoulder of his wide receiver.
Sure.
It was a give me. It was a give me. And, he's not perfect. He's a human being, but he's pretty close to the most amazing athlete I've ever seen. I mean, not just in football, but just period.
Well, he's a game breaker and he's a playmaker, right? And in the NFL, that's a little bit different than what we have traditionally seen at the quarterback position, being that you're just a playmaker. Now, Lamar Jackson, and I think that we have to mention too, when he came out of college, people didn't know if he should play quarterback, right? He was a Heisman Trophy winner. They didn't know if he should play quarterback. Maybe you should go to wide receiver, because the idea was that he couldn't throw the football and he couldn't process the reads. Well, obviously, John Harbaugh and company, the Baltimore Ravens, they figured that out pretty early into his first NFL season. They needed to give this guy the time on the field because he is a gamer and he is a game breaker, but his passing accuracy has improved year by year. So I think that while that's true, Jason Breacher, and even you mentioning that there are some plays that you look at and say, wow, that doesn't look like an Aaron Rodgers type play. No, but at the same time, like you've mentioned, Chad, look at what this guy does with the rest of the field, and it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
So, Surfer, I would argue dog enthusiast Michael is a better passer and runner. That's a very politically correct way of saying that. Dog enthusiast. Chad, you were saying Lamar Jackson is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, Jeremy Foreman, but I didn't want to say that because that's cheesy. And I've already been cheesy this morning, and I don't need to be too cheesy.
Hey, listen, Breacher and a lot of people that feel the same way, like about Lamar Jackson, the Michael Vick comparisons, he's not wrong. Michael Vick threw the best ball of any of these guys. Like, as far as a spiral goes, Michael Vick threw the best ball. Now, as far as the running goes, this is a debate, because I think even Michael Vick talked about this. When you look at the way Lamar, and he's taller than Vick by a bit, right? When you look at the way Lamar is able to rumble through defenses, it might even be a little bit more dangerous than Vick, because Vick, as fast as he was only 6'1". I mean, you and I have met Michael Vick at least once, I think. He's not very tall. And when you think about that punishment that he takes on the field, comparative to what Lamar Jackson or Cam Newton was able to withstand, then you can see why Lamar might just be elevated above. But to Jason P1 Breacher's point, fuck Michael Vick, dog enthusiast, of course, but he threw a great football, and he sure could scramble.
Yes.
All right, we're going to step aside really quick. We got about a minute. When we come back, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios, I know the Milwaukee Bucks lost their first game last night. That's not where I want to go. I want to talk about why it's okay to be a Packer fan today, why you should all feel better about being a Packer fan today. So stay tuned. Chad and I are coming back in 1 minute here on the Sports Carnival. What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
At the Little Doobie's Pizza, we kill 2 stone birds with 1 rock every time with our hand-rolled Doobie Deluxe for only $49.95. That's a street value of over $75. No way! The Doobie Deluxe is a hand-rolled 18-inch pizza that will blow your bone-resonant mind. Whoa! Topped with a sausage, black olives, extra cheese, and about a half ounce of the finest kush at east side of San Bernardino.
Dude, give me another slice.
Because at Little Doobie's Pizza, we put a little TLC in our THC.
And right now, for a limited time only, get an order of crazy cannabis bread for only $10 with an order of a Doobie Deluxe at the street value of over $22.50.
You know what we say at the Little Doobie's Pizza? Why get stoned then eat when you can do both at the same time?
Doobies.
Yes, back to the action live from the Trauma Center studios. This is the one and only Sports Carnival. Hey, I wonder what Matt Flynn is up to. Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
Oh, God damn, it's good to be back on the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios. Matt Flynn's still cashing one of the last Seattle Seahawks checks, as a matter of fact. By the way, they paid him in a Bobby Bonilla summary settlement, right? So they gave him a little check every single year. Boy, that was great to see Little Doobies up here. Little Doobies, Chad, for those that were with me on the 5-year journey here in lacrosse when it was still on this old thing called a radio, they remember Little Doobies. And this is one of my proudest moments when you show something to a boss who really and truly, let's be fair, I mean, good people, they have no fucking idea what they're talking about. You show the stuff to a boss and they're like, yeah, you can't play that. And you walk out of there like you should, respectful, and say, okay, I got you. And the first thought that you have is, well, at least if you're me, well, I'm playing that this morning. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm playing that this morning. If that dude said no, well, obviously, yes has got to be the answer. I'm so glad that I've always listened to my instincts.
Yes, you know what? That's what you have to do, because most of the time, the people that are guarding the gate are assholes. That's the bottom line. That's just their job, though.
I know.
Deep down, they know you're right, but they can't give an inch, because otherwise they'll lose their all-important jobs.
Well, if an inch was a lotta, those bosses, they would be happy with where they're at right now. Really quick, Chad, because I want to talk about why it's great to be a Packer fan this morning. It really is. As much as we all are suffering through the loss to the Lions, I want to talk about why that's so great. Before we do that, though, I want to thank our friends Kyle Cable at One Trust Real Estate, Tony Russo, Brian Sandmeyer, Preferred Insurance of Downtown Lacrosse, the Midwest Mortgage Team, Mike Garcia, Todd Vercruzzi, the Coos, and our good friends Sean O'Neill, the O'Neill Law Firm, and Joe's Helping Hands Landscaping. Fellas, thanks so much for all your support of the program here. Matty Ice is checking in, and speaking of those that support the show, the Recovery Room, which powers our Trauma Center studios, always good for an impromptu gathering. And Matty Ice is throwing up the Sports Carney, like bat signal, saying, how about an impromptu gathering at the RR tonight?
I think that's probably going to need to be done, huh?
I think we could make that happen. Here's a little something. I haven't left the house since last Friday. I mean, I've done a quick trip a couple of times, and I've done a lot of walks, right? Like I've been in and around the house, but I haven't really left the house since last Friday.
You went Howard Hughes. You went Howard Hughes on us. I got you.
A little bit. Now,
I peeing in jugs and drinking them, or no?
Well, it is sterile. Let's not forget, urine is sterile. And how do you think the French got such white teeth back in the 16th, 1700s? Now, here's a little old-timey phraseology for you. There was a thing back in the old days they called piss poor. They also said you didn't have a pot to piss in, and then you were also dirt poor. So I'm going to break this down for you. Yeah. Dirt poor is when you just had a dirt floor, okay? So your floor was just dirt. Piss poor was when you actually sold your urine. Like, this was a thing. People were what they considered piss poor, kind of like selling your plasma today, right? Back in the day, it was piss poor. And then if you didn't have a pot to piss in, you were so poor, you couldn't even sell your own micturition. I mean, think about what a sullied life that would be when you've got good sterile urine, right? It's full of life and vitamins, and yet you can't get rid of it because you don't have a pot to piss in. That's
wow. What a lesson you've just taught all of us here in class. That's the more you know, the more you know. Nice work, Dave.
Uncle Dave's fireside chats at 8:13 in the AM in the Central Time Zone. The Coos, yes.
Anthony Russo says the Coos.
I tell you what, man, people around town, and this is no bullshit. People around town are clamoring for Todd Vercuzzi's hot tub and jacuzzis to become an actual thing. If we give this a lot of smoke, the fire might actually begin. And Todd, who is listen, this guy is a business dude. He knows how to start a good business. He might actually put this thing together. I don't know.
Let me tell you something that the Coos is working on something. There's a promotion coming up that may involve a cruise. I'll just put it that way. I wanted to go back real quick because we had a couple people, because we forgot, and we should have mentioned this guy, Randall Cunningham, of course.
Yes.
Randall Cunningham was amazing.
Quarterback,
UNLV guy. So we totally missed the boat on that one. Our apologies on that. Yes, good call.
And listen, Randall Cunningham, great dual threat quarterback. I mean, there have been a lot of guys, more than we even remember. I mean, what about I wouldn't say Dante Culpepper was that much of a scrambling quarterback, but I'm thinking
Mark
of another
Brunell's maybe a good guy.
Mark Brunell, and who was the Tennessee Titans? Why am I forgetting his name right now? Tennessee Titans quarterback.
Aaron McNair?
Yes, exactly. Steve McNair was another guy that
had some passed away. Yes,
indeed, but he had some real wheels. Look, the point that we're going back to here with respect to Lamar Jackson isn't that there haven't been great dual threat quarterbacks before, but when you look at the body of work, what Lamar Jackson is doing right now is unprecedented. Now, the game's changed a bit. We understand that. I don't know that Lamar Jackson would have gotten away with the same things in 1987 or 1997 that he gets away with in 2022 because of how the game is officiated. But the way that this man is performing on the field right now, it is something to behold. And when you look at that Saints team last night, look, I had a real thought that the Saints were going to be competitive. It's Monday Night Football. It's in New Orleans. That was not the case. And the Saints have a real issue at quarterback. They put Taysom Hill in for a couple of series. Yeah. And Andy Dalton out there looking completely out of sorts. Famous Janus is over there on the sideline. Not sure if he's still injured or if he's going to be coming back. But for what it's worth right now, Lamar Jackson, if he stays upright, he's got a real chance to become the best dual threat quarterback.
Yeah, Matty Ice mentioned Fran Tarkenton. We did mention Fran, and then Jeremy Foreman's got to throw Kaepernick in there.
Listen, he had a couple of good seasons.
He did.
He had a couple of good seasons. You can't knock it. I mean, they went to the Super Bowl. That Super Bowl, San Francisco and Baltimore, that was one of the more entertaining ones that I've ever seen. Now, if you want to talk about what hijinks may be in the NFL world, that Super Bowl looked like one of those hijinks type Super Bowls because the Ravens,
power outage.
Yes, the Ravens were housing the 49ers. They were housing them. And San Francisco comes back in the second half and makes it a really competitive game. I was watching that game with Johnny Unitas' son, Joe, at his home in Vegas. Remember, Joe worked with us in the UFL. He was an equipment provider. He had a company that did some equipment or apparel. And watching that Baltimore Super Bowl win at Joe's house where, he had posters and pictures and framed autographs from his dad, Johnny, and his career was quite something. But in that moment, I thought the NFL was up to something because, dude, how can you let the power go out for 30 minutes at a Super Bowl? That just didn't seem real.
Speaking of different eras, Johnny Unitas probably, honestly, if you really looked at it in its totality, may be the greatest quarterback of all time. He actually called all of his own plays. You had to call your own plays back then, and he had a hell of an arm. I mean, he may be, in most people's list, where it used to be most people's list, he was a top 5 guy. He was a top 5 guy in my list. Things have gotten so far out of whack because the league has changed so much, and there's so much emphasis on throwing. And, you've got, Tom Brady reaching 100,000 passing yards in both postseason and regular season. It's a little out of skew, so it's really hard to compare eras, but I'll tell you what, Johnny Unitas was the real deal.
Johnny Unitas was absolutely the real deal. And we've talked about this before, you and I've mentioned this to listeners and audience members because of the difference in the NFL game, the throwing downfield that they do. Now, the stats don't look the same. Even John Elway and Joe Montana, for as great as those two guys were, their stats don't come close to what guys are doing today. No. However, Johnny Unitas, in context, if you look at his stats, he's actually one of the only ones. Y.A. Tittle is another guy. Johnny Unitas' stats you could actually look at and see some sort of comparable to what today's NFL is. Now, real quick, on Facebook, we got somebody popping in, says 2022, the NFL year of the mobile QB. All of the top teams have a running QB. Even Mahomes had several rushing yards last week. That's fair. And look, Aaron Rodgers, for what it's worth, as old as he's getting, he was still able to show some wheels this last Sunday against Detroit. Had a couple of I love Joe. This is a resident attorney right here, Joe V.
Birds aren't real. Is that from the Elon Musk? Did you see Elon Musk say birds haven't been real since 1986?
Yeah,
he's trolling.
The birds aren't real thing is fantastic, and we could do a whole show on just that because I love where these guys are going. And Joe V, you're awesome for that. Thank you. But
that would mean Baltimore Ravens aren't real then, because Ravens are birds, and so are the Eagles. So their undefeated season are BS. So birds Packers may be in there if you start whittling out birds.
Well, you got to get rid of the Cardinals, so you're like starting to cleave some NFC teams. You get rid of the Eagles and Cardinals, bam, you've got 2 bird teams done. Think about the similarities. You got a lot of horse teams, you got a lot of cat teams, a lot of bird teams. A lot of those kinds of animals.
I wanted to show this, Johnny. You also had to light his own cigarettes. This is true. Things were tougher. They had to fly a commercial, light their own cigarettes. Yeah.
So listen, this is a perfect way to make a transition into what I wanted to talk about, because we're talking about Johnny Unitas, right? A famed Baltimore Colt. Jim Irsay's father owned Baltimore Colts. Jim Irsay is the owner of the Indianapolis Colts right now. And yesterday, I started to think that Jim Irsay, who has had a problem or two, not to say that we all don't have issues on occasion, but Jim Irsay's had a problem or two with drinking. And I thought to myself, Jim Irsay was fucking drunk when I heard the news yesterday. If you're watching this on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, on LinkedIn, on our Facebook group page, you can see this little graphic. If you're listening to us live on Podbean, I'm going to break it down for you. Drunk owner Jim Irsay of the Colts fires a real NFL head coach and replaces him with ESPN talking head and former offensive lineman. I'm not saying that Jeff Saturday doesn't know football, but we're talking about an ESPN analyst, Jeff Saturday. So my takeaway from this yesterday, Chad, was this. Packer fans are sulking because the Packers lose to the Lions. The season is effectively over. Even Lil Wayne is dumping the team and saying you should have traded Rodgers. Well, then drunk Jim Irsay comes and gives us all a reprieve because he's like, Packer fans, hold my beer. I'm going to fire a real head coach. I'm going to bring somebody in from the television studio and have them coach a team that this week, Chad, Jeff Saturday just tweeted last weekend while the games were on about how the Raiders are so horrible. What a disaster they are. Guess who he faces his first week? The Raiders. So Jim Irsay, in all of his wisdom, says what we need to do is get Jeff Saturday off of fucking Get Up on ESPN with Mike Greenberg. Pull him in like he's coming back in to save the day. And here's something that may get lost because I saw some people on Facebook say, oh, good, it's, this is what a real owner should do. This is the worst move that you could make as an owner, because first of all, you're meddling all in the affairs of your football team. And then you're telling a group of professionals that have dedicated their entire lives to the profession of coaching to, again, hold my beer. I'm going to embarrass us worse by bringing in somebody who has, I think, coached a high school team a little bit. I believe Jeff Saturday has coached his kid's high school team, and it's go time. This is awesome. And I love the quote from Irsay because he said to the score, I'm glad he doesn't have any NFL experience. They're afraid, he goes on to say. They go to analytics, and it gets difficult. He doesn't have that fear. Yeah, because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Like, there's that. There's fear of no fear comes with ignorance in cases.
So they're having problems at quarterback. Do you think they make a switch back to Matt Ryan? Or
no, not even a little bit. Matt Ryan's injured, first of all, so he's got a little bit of that. Frank Reich had been dealing with – so Frank Reich, in his tenure, is an above 500 coach. He's taken the Colts to multiple playoffs. He's had 7 different quarterbacks. He has never started the season with the same quarterback. So Jim Irsay, in all of his wisdom, and of course the brain trust there at Indianapolis, they decided, you know what we need to do? We need to make this thing interesting because there's nothing like an interesting season in the NFL. We all know how much these guys love just living by the seat of their pants and not having a routine of any sort because you wouldn't want to build your life if you're an NFL coach around a routine or anything.
No, of course not.
This is the way that you want to do it. You want this guy who gets aggressive DUIs, in his backyard. I think he was actually driving one of those little Tonkas, and he got a DUI in his backyard. You want this guy calling the shots. It makes me feel bad for people that really thought Al Davis was the worst of the owners, or even Jerry Jones. This thing has reached like an improbable level of comedy to me. So if you're a Packer fan this morning, from my heart to yours, take heart. We're not Colts fans. At least there's that.
Well, Jeff Saturday was an accomplished offensive lineman. Offensive linemen obviously have to know the offense really, really well. I think he is a knowledgeable football guy. But yeah, being a head coach in the NFL is a completely different ball game. Maybe you start off as being a position coach and then work your way up. That's normally how it's done. But I will say this is interim, right? This isn't permanent necessarily.
Well, that's what they say.
Or is it permanent?
Well, no, they've called him the interim head coach.
So that means it's not necessarily permanent.
No, it means that you're coming in mid-season. As opposed to the regular route for this stuff, and we all know this, you take whoever's kind of like right there. When the Packers fired Mike McCarthy, Joe Philbin was the offensive coordinator. He steps up. You just kind of roll because the guy's in the building, Chad. There's a certain familiarity. Hey, this is how we've been doing. This is John. This is, Bob. And you sort of know these people. The move that they're making with Jeff Saturday, and apparently Jeff Saturday was as surprised by this as anybody. Like, what, did he just get a phone call? And Irsay's like, hey, Jeff, I'm watching you in grade A. You want to come coach? And like, how much are you talking about here? Well, like, what kind of money does he have to throw Jeff Saturday? Because leaving a cushy gig at ESPN to go take an ass whooping every single week.
Stressful. Yeah.
Dude, that I'm sure that Jim Irsay pulled out the Brinks truck or backed it up a little bit for Jeff Saturday. I just don't know what that could be. And if you're one of these coaches that's on that team, you're hating this move right now. I mean, you are absolutely hating this move. As good as Jeff Saturday is or was, or as much football as he might know, Chad, what it shows is a complete disrespect. It really is. It would be like us, and they've done this before, which is why it doesn't work as much. It would be like us being at a radio station or a TV station, and the bosses just think, hey, you guys cost us a little too much, or maybe whatever. We haven't hit the ratings numbers, so we're just going to pull that guy. He listened to the radio for a long time. He won a lot of times. I mean, this guy called into the radio station, and we'll put him on air. Okay.
I don't think it's quite the equivalent. Obviously, Jeff Saturday does have a lot of respect when it comes to, I would say, Colts fans and probably, Colts higher management as far as him as a person, right, as a player. But yeah, I mean, clearly the best thing that Jeff Saturday can come in and do is go, okay, hey, I'm the new guy. This is what I'm thinking, but get his coaches together and try to get on the same page. Because if he goes in there roughshod and just starts, pushing people around, he's going to lose the team completely, right? Because you can't lose the players. You can't have the players believe that you're a joke as well. And I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. It'll be interesting to see how this moves forward. Will he finish out the season? Will they replace him, before the end of the season? How is this going to work? I guess it depends on how many beers Irsay has in him before the end of the season.
Well, listen, this is all bad for the Colts at this point, right? Like, it really is. It's all bad. You're benching Matt Ryan. You got this kid, Sam Ehlinger. You just lost by 345 points to Mac Jones and the New England Patriots. And, where do you go from here? I don't know. Brad from Green Bay is checking in this morning. Brad, super good to see your name pop up here. Brad says Saturday was a longtime center for Indy. Yeah, he was. He was Peyton Manning's center for many years, and he was not an all-pro, but he was a pro bowler a number of times. I'm not saying that Jeff Saturday doesn't know football, fellas. What I'm saying is that in the context of an NFL locker room, and I've spent some time in a little bit of these places, when you start to look at the people that you install in positions, the people become parts of the foundation. If the people aren't the right pieces for that foundation, it's like playing an adult game of Tetris on the lawn, right? When you're also kind of drunk, you start pulling the wrong pieces or putting them in the wrong spot, the thing topples over. So I'm not saying that he can't do a good job. I just don't know what coaching acumen he has at all. He's been on television, which is fine. It's not that this has never worked before, but look at the most recent examples. John Gruden comes from the booth and goes to the Raiders, and then he's out. Look at what Urban Meyer did. Goes from being a really bad college football analyst to being a worse NFL head coach, and now goes back. There's just not a great transition from television broadcasting to NFL head coach that we can see right now. Maybe it works. I don't know. To me, it looked like a drunk, power-hungry move by Jim Irsay. That's what it looked like.
Got a Facebook user saying Reggie Wayne is a wide receivers
that's cool.
Wide relievers coach, which is I don't know if that was
a wide relievers coach, no doubt.
Gruden also a boozer. That's good. But we're just piling on this morning. I love it.
Well, listen, in the NFL, as we've talked about a number of times, the stress levels are high, and sometimes you need some inebriation. I remember working with a guy who had a coffee cup similar to this. Where are we going? Okay. And there was a tight end that was going into the offensive meeting room. Thought it was just a big cup of water because, it just looked like the guy had a coffee cup full of water. Takes a swig, it's pure vodka. So that can happen even at 9 a.m. Wow. And, when you're getting ready to install a game plan, that can even happen at 9 a.m. So I don't know that any of these things are completely off script for these kinds of guys. It just looked to me yesterday, and again, it might work out for Jeff Saturday. I know he was a good offensive, an offensive lineman, but it just looked like Jim Irsay was completely out of sorts. And for Packer fans, I felt great that we were able to sort of transition from talking about the doom and gloom of the Packers to elevating ourselves with, hey, at least you're not a Colts fan.
Well, yeah, that's always nice to have some kind of distraction when you're in the middle of a shit show. That is kind of refreshing. Thomas is saying, looking forward to hearing Coach Janus at 8:30 is coming up. New uniforms that debuted are, I guess, on fire. Yes. Have you seen these yet? We are having
the black uniforms. He knows how fond of the black uniforms I am, and these things they debuted on Saturday. Fantastic. Well, listen, I'm super excited to talk to real NFL, possibly in the future coach, Matt Janus, a real football coach in college football right now for the University of Wisconsin Lacrosse's Eagles team, who, Chad, survived a really close game at home and have one game left in the regular season. So stay tuned. Sports Carnival coming back in about 1 minute with UWL head coach Matt Janus, who, at least for what we understand, is not leaving for the Colts right now.
Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices.
The official mortgage team of the Sports Carnival is the Midwest mortgage team of Land Home Financial, my good buddies Mike Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi. Listen, we all know the mortgage industry is in a bit of an upheaval right now, and that's why it's more important than ever to go to a couple of guys that you can trust, a local operation right here in La Crosse. That is the Midwest mortgage team. Again, Michael Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi of Land Home Financial. Don't make a mistake with your mortgage needs. Go to the official mortgage provider of the Sports Carnival, the Midwest mortgage team, Mike Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi.
Back to the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios. You know, people say I'm condescending. That means I talk down to people. Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
I thought you were going to look at me like this and say, now I'm talking down to you. It's Dave Carney. Welcome back to the Sports Carnival. We are broadcasting from the Trauma Center studios, wherever you are and however you may be taking in this morning's program. Hope you're having a good one. Matt Janus, head coach of the UWL Eagles, who are flying high, an 8-1 season so far, is joining us here in the Sports Carney Carousel. Top of the morning, Coach Janus. How you doing? Big win on Saturday. It was a wet one out there. You guys escaped with that W, though.
Gentlemen, what's going on? Yeah, we did. We did what we needed to do in order to win that game and put ourselves in a position here to be fighting for a share of the WIAC championship.
So before we go on to a lot of what the game was and what you saw and what we can look forward to against a really tough team coming up this weekend, at least I think they are in Platteville. Let me ask you about Ryan Byrne again, because this kid from West Salem, last week we had John, and he kicks a 51-yarder, which essentially saves the game for you. It was one of the longest, I think, tied for the longest field goal in program history. Well, on Saturday, Bernie hit his 31st field goal as a member of the Eagles team. Correct me if I'm wrong. That ties a team record as well. Jedediah Jensen was the other guy, I believe, that had hit 31 field goals. And now Ryan Byrne is right there too. Again, I know it seems, kind of counterintuitive. We're starting a football conversation talking about your kicker, but this dude is awesome. And once again, he came in and came up huge for you guys.
Yeah, he's such a special piece of our program and has been for a really, really long time. I mean, it goes back. Gigi, you remember him? I mean, I think he booted some at West Salem High School. I think he had like a 40+ yarder in high school, because I kind of remember talking to him. I know me and Coach Mitt were both recruiting. I remember talking to him about that kind of distance there. He had that kind of leg in high school, and then he shows up on our campus from day one, and it's just been so consistent. You just trust in everything that he does, and obviously has the athleticism, has the leg strength. Then he's also got the poise to kind of keep going. And again, you talk about the Oshkosh situation, but having to kick a field goal in the weather that we had last week, there was some weird wind off and on. There was rain. The footballs were wet, and having to deal with that, and to be able to just come in there, not worry about it, and just kick it through the uprights.
Yeah, it really shows a remarkable amount of poise. And again, Ryan Byrne from West Salem, he was, I believe, a quarterback as well in high school. So he's definitely got a lot of the different tools. Coach, let's get into some of what we saw at Roger Herring Stadium on Saturday. I saw Jason Breacher said the game was wet. The beer from PSB was great, and they helped hold down that Pearl Street beer tent. The weather was quite inclement, and we saw a lot of big gusts. The rain was coming in different sheets. And you guys did have a couple of instances in this game where it looked like maybe you were going to succumb to the elements. We'll go backwards. The end of the game, all right, River Falls is able to recover an onside kick. we've seen this happen a couple of times before, and generally when it does, it doesn't work out great for the team that let the opposing team recover that onside kick. However, you're able to hold these guys and they don't get anything out of it. So talk to us about that series and kind of, what went into making sure that once you did that and they recovered, they weren't getting anywhere and the game was going to end with you guys winning 24-17.
Well, you kind of said it, Dave. I think I had maybe about 6 heart attacks all in the last 4 minutes of the game there. Obviously, we have a great defensive series. We get an interception, and then, we tried to advance it when we didn't need to. And unfortunately, we end up fumbling the football. So they get the ball back with kind of a fresh set of downs. And, we played really loose in our coverage because it was still a 2-possession game. So we really tried to say, hey, burn all your timeouts, take your time trying to score. And it ended up working that way. And they end up settling for a field goal, and they go and convert the onside kick. And, after kind of the interception with the fumble, I'm just like, oh my God, they're going to get the onside kick here too, aren't we? And they're going to have 2 plays. So you try to piece that all together. They're going to have 2 plays with they're going to take one to try to get them a little closer. Then they're going to take one shot at the end zone. And then we used our timeouts too. We actually ended up using one of our last timeout, our last time out on the onside team. But before that, we took one on a 4th and 8 just because we wanted to get set. That was on the interception that we had. So we were kind of out of timeout. So we weren't able to, get our type of personnel that we wanted on for the last play of the game. So kind of a wild finish. But our players, our players did a great job. They did a good job responding to some of that stuff. They got themselves ready to go. And they did, what we always tell them about is do what's the man to win the football game. And I don't care how it looks sometimes, as much as I don't like to have 6 heart attacks in the last 4 minutes, whatever we can do to win the football game. And that took, again, as it does every week in our league, it takes all 3 phases. Our offense converted some huge third downs. Our offense scores a big touchdown. And then, defensively, we needed to step up a little bit and kind of hold them out of the end zone. And we did a really good job throughout most of that game, made them kind of earn every minute, every set of that. And then on special teams, we needed that field goal that you're talking about from Ryan Byrne. That was huge for us. So really a team win here and against a really good football team.
So, Coach, we've got a couple of different milestones. We mentioned Ryan Burns' 31st field goal, tying Jedediah Jensen for most in school history. Joey Stutzman also, and if you're watching us, you can see the graphic that I've put up here. Joey Stutzman also surpassed 1,000 yards again this season. I know he was over 1,000 yards last season as well. 86 total yards, 22 carries. Let's talk about Stutzman here. And what kinds of awards might Joey be up for this year? Because I know that there's various different kinds of awards in the WIAC that can be awarded to players for different accomplishments. We think this might, your season's not over. You've still got Platteville coming up, and we've got a postseason run to continue. But if you were to look through your coaching crystal ball right now, what would you at least like to nominate Stutzman for this year?
Well, I think I'm a little biased, but I do think he's one of the best running backs in college football, and I think he's worthy of every honor that he gets. He was able to get first team all conference last year, and he's leading the conference in rushing again this year. I don't even think anybody's really terribly close to him. And especially with the carries that he's had, he hasn't had all that many carries. I think carries are down from last year a little bit as we try to keep him healthy. But I think he's one of the best backs in the country. You watch him run, you watch some of the cuts that he's made, some of the vision that he has, and then the toughness that he plays with. It's just special. And I've told you before, you guys, and you just don't get guys like this. You don't get it every year. You don't get a guy with his mentality. He loves football. He just loves it. He loves every bit of it. He loves practice. He loves, obviously, the games. He loves really just being around his teammates. And I think that's his favorite part of football. I think he loves when we go on road trips and we get to stay overnight and he gets to hang out with all his buddies. And he's a guy that wants to leave for a road trip on Tuesday, and he doesn't understand that they don't have the budget to stay in a hotel for 6 nights. But he is just a football player through and through, and it's so special to have him. It's so special to get to coach him, and I get the sideline view of watching him every Saturday.
Chad, it's interesting when Matt talks about a guy like Joey Stutzman wanting to go on those road trips. I always enjoyed whatever little kind of road trip there was. Did you get that same feeling when you were playing football? Like that was one of the most fun things. You get on the bus, everybody's kind of together. You get to ride. It's a little different in high school than college, but you know what I mean? You get you're with your brothers and you're out there doing that thing, playing football.
I was a lineman, so a fat guy. So I was more excited about the per diem, and then we got to go to McDonald's. I was like, are we going to get to? So we're going to go to McDonald's, right? Like, dude, we just lost the game. I get that, but I'm hungry.
Right.
I need my $15 so I can go to McDonald's. That's what I would. That's what that juiced me up a little bit, Coach.
Yeah, we tried to do some special things. Like, we've gone on our road trips. We practiced at Ford Field this year. We practiced in the Hudson Center and walked around Lambeau. But the reality is those guys just want to get to the hotel, and they love that. So they all go and play Mafia. I don't know if you ever played that game. It's kind of some big group game that they play. I couldn't explain it, but that's what they want to do. And they play in like the hotel lobby, and they are loud as heck. How we haven't gotten in trouble, but they love playing that game with each other. That's like their favorite part of the road trip.
Well, listen, camaraderie, the getting together, and if they're having fun and enjoying each other, Coach, that really shows up on the field, right? So whatever they're doing with Mafia, keep it going, because there's a big game coming up on Saturday. And I want to transition while we've still got some time to Platteville. We're going to wrap up the regular season, Roger Herring Stadium, Veterans Memorial Field, 1:00. Now, there's going to be a lot of tailgating out here on Saturday. From what I understand, this is going to be a big one. I've been invited to go hang out with the UWL softball coaches at their big tailgate party. I'm absolutely going to be doing that. And then, of course, going over to the Pearl Street tent to watch you guys take on Platteville. Let's talk about what Platteville is for many of us that aren't familiar with where they're at this season and what you're going to have to do to win this game. Because, again, right now you're in line for a share of the WIAC Conference Championship. You're also right now currently ranked number 7 in the nation, according to D3 football, which to me feels like a little bit of a miss. I don't know the rest of these teams in many cases, but you should definitely be in the top 3. So let's talk about Platteville and what you're going to have to do to secure a victory for the final game of the regular season.
Yeah, it's going to be a massive task. I mean, and what's so cool about this is we're in the last week of our regular season, and both teams, us and them, are playing for a lot. Are playing for extra games. They're playing for playoffs. They're playing for a bowl game. Like, that's really, really cool. When you have two teams that are going to put everything on the line, and they're going to, that's a really special thing. And I'm really excited just to be a part of this game. And I think you look at Platteville and what a year they've been having, and credit to their coaching staff and their head coach, Ryan Munz, who, I played together with. He was a teammate. I coached together with him for a long time. We carpooled, I think, for 3 years together on the way to work. So really close to him, and he's just done a phenomenal job in his first year. And the staff around him, man, their defense is just special. Their defense is really good. Their defense coordinator, Dan Bowder, is one of the best around, and he has been. They got a phenomenal front four that's really going to attack and really going to push our offensive line. It's going to be a game just like what we saw last week, where it's just going to be physical as all heck in the trenches there. And so we got to find a way on offense to establish a running game. We got to find a way on offense to stay ahead of schedule. We got to get ourselves into second and medium, preferably second and forwards, and that's going to be hard. Like, that's not easy. They got a phenomenal defensive line, like I said, but they got a really, really good boundary safety that is just essentially a headhunter, and they use him well. They free him up to allow him to really have some freedom to go and make plays, and so they're going to be really, really physical on defense, a really good defense, and have been a really good defense the whole season. So credit to them there. And then as you switch gears to looking at their offense, their quarterback's been kind of banged up all year, and he's come back now, and you can see the spark that they had the last week. I know they were throwing in some massive wind gusts, but he had a really, really good game. We're going to see a ton of quick game from them, and kind of that spread system that they've been running, and obviously with their offensive coordinator Brent Allen, and I think the receivers coach has a big say in a lot of their passing concepts there. We're going to have a massive task. I mean, they are a really good football team that's playing at a really high level and has had a really good season. And they've knocked off they're not afraid of ranked opponents. They've knocked off they're giant killers. They've knocked off a lot of good teams. And so it's going to be, like I said, it's just going to be such a cool moment when it's the last week of the regular season and you got two teams on the field that are playing for a lot and that are playing for everything. And there's not much more you can ask for as a coach. There's not much more you can ask for as a player.
No, and there's not a whole lot more that you can ask for as an Eagles fan. When these teams are playing for everything, the stadium environment at UWL is already impressive. And when we've got this much added going into it, it's just going to be electric. I can't wait for the game. Again, kickoff is 1 p.m. this Saturday at Roger Herring Stadium, Veterans Memorial Field. The tailgating, I've been told, is going to start a bit early. This is going to be a robust tailgating for this Eagles game. Coach Janus, a pleasure to talk to you as always. We'll leave you with the same phrase that we left each other with for years. Go Eagles!
Let's go. Eagles. Thank you, guys. Go Eagles. We'll talk to you later. We'll see you Saturday.
Bye, guy.
Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home, or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate.
Hey, it's time for koozies, hot tub, and jacuzzis in downtown La Crosse. Whether you're looking to relax after a hard day's work, or maybe you're up for a little soak and poke, we got you covered. That's right, when you're in the market for a hot tub or jacuzzi, all you have to do is call the Coos. 555-SOAK. That's 555-7625.
Soak and poke is a slang term for hot tub sex.
Please practice responsibly.
Broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios, this is the one and only Sports Carnival. Like Michael Jordan once said, I never lost a game. I just ran out of time. And here's your host, Dave Carney. What a great attitude. You think about that attitude.
Oh, man, that's a great one.
One of a kind. He was one of a kind.
Yeah, he really was. The Washington one of a kind, a little bit different. Like, we needed to add on some OTs to that one. So there is that.
Yeah.
Thanks to Coach Janus from UWL for joining us once again here. He's one of my favorite interviews and has been for so long, Chad. The enthusiasm, just the vibrancy that you get from Janus is what his players also get too. And this season has been so special. So I'm encouraging you again, if you're watching us or listening to us on a replay, come on out, hang with the Sports Carnival crew. The P1s are going to be in attendance on Saturday, and we're going to have a great time watching the Eagles take on Platteville, which is, Coach Janus kind of alluded to, Chad, you didn't know this, but that is where both he and Mike Schmidt came from before they took over the UWL program. And now Mike in Aberdeen, South Dakota, which, by the way, the Badgers, I know the Badgers basketball team played a team called South Dakota last night. We're not going to get into it. It's not a big deal, but they did win by quite a lot. I think it was 85-59. Morningwood was asking if we would talk about that, so that was very good. The Bucks did lose last night to the Atlanta Hawks. The Bucks are now 9-1. Trae Young wasn't playing. Janus was back, scored 25. Bucks are going to be just fine. We had too much going on today with Monday Night Football, drunk Jim Irsay, and, of course, UWL coach Janus. I like that P12 Foreman says his boy Trenton, who was a monster in high school, both on basketball and on football, said, my boy was 200% better when Burn Dog was his quarterback. This kid, Ryan Byrne of West Salem, which is a town, Chad, little bit outside of La Crosse, 5 or 6 miles out of La Crosse, was an incredible athlete in high school. And in college, I told you this before, but he played a little bit of wide receiver for UW. He's never played quarterback for him, but he played on some special teams. Then they transitioned him to full-time just being their kicker, which I thought was a great move. And I just can't understand why Ryan Byrne, being able to kick the way that he can kick, wouldn't get a sniff, at least at an NFL training camp, like a training camp invite, because we know you don't need to be from a big program as a field goal kicker to make it in the pros. You just need to be able to have a boot that comes with a certain kind of temerity so you can stand up for pressure. And that's really all it takes.
Yeah. I mean, there's European soccer guys that are in the NFL. I mean, they come from everywhere. Australian football, things of that nature. Morning Wood saw UWL visited the Packers a couple weeks ago. Did Janus, I'm guessing he's saying Gutierrez, is that what he's saying?
Brian Gutekunst is
Gutekunst,
Gutekunst is
he's disgraced as a UWL grad. Wow, there's a shot.
Yeah, that's rough. And I wasn't even going to mention that. Listen, as a collective this morning.
Why I threw it up there.
I know, and it's great. As a collective this morning, and that's why I love you, Chad, because you know exactly where to go with things. As a collective this morning, we're trying to feel better because Jim Irsay is drunk, and that makes us as Packer fans feel like it's not quite as bad. Real quick, Chad, I've got a poll question on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney. It's also on Climb the Poll. It's also on our Facebook fan page. What is the best division in the NFC so far this season? The West, the East, the North, the South. Would it surprise you to know that right now, the home of the NFC North, which is where we are, the black and blue division, is getting 0% of the votes so far? 0% of the votes, even though the Vikings are actually 7-1. They are getting, the NFC North gets 0% of the vote this morning.
Yeah, I love to see the Vikings be at 7-1, but I'm not convinced. I mean, I know there's Viking fans that are listening, and I'm not saying that obviously they're better than my Niners are at this point. But isn't there something about that team that just doesn't convince you? And I don't know if it's Kirk Cousins or some of the squeaky wins they've had. They don't convince me.
Well, they don't convince a lot of people because of Kirk Cousins. And when you see Kirk Cousins,
and I don't know if that's fair, though. I don't know if that's fair.
Chad, it's fair. I saw the TMZ video of him dancing with his shirt off and this big chain the other night after the win. So in the locker room, he gets a piece of Christian cake and he eats it and very humble. But then he goes and bounces around with his shirt off. It was a bad look. The Vikings shouldn't be trusted because of Cousins, of course. But I still think that at 7-1, they deserve a little bit of respect. Now, I will say this. Vegas got very nervous about the Vikings and the Bills game coming up on Sunday. Josh Allen has a potential torn UCL, which is a thumb injury, right? They took that number off. I wanted to jump on Minnesota plus the 7.5 points yesterday morning. By the time I go back, as soon as I get the word that Josh Allen might be out, they pulled the game. I was a little dismayed, a little crestfallen. So I had to make myself feel better. My Dave's Daily Play yesterday was all about going against the Los Angeles Lakers once again. And dude, the Lakers are the perfect team right now in the NBA if you're trying to make some money. The Lakers can't cover a spread. They can't. And yesterday, I told our at least the ones that watched the video, I told our audience that the Jazz were on a really good cover streak. 5-0, they were against the spread in their last 5 games overall. The Lakers can't shoot. And last night, no LeBron James, no Patrick Beverly. I believe there was no Lonnie Walker. Not that it would have mattered. Street Clothes had 29 points. But this Lakers team is so bad, they lose incredibly big to Utah. So that was kind of a little comeback for me, seeing as how I didn't get the Viking game to take because I loved Minnesota plus the points. And I don't know that anybody should really believe in the Vikings. They haven't proven anything yet. It's just the regular season. But I was just surprised to see that poll question, Chad, with the NFC North getting 0% of the votes, considering that we do have a number of Viking fans that I know watch the program.
So what is the best division in football then?
In the NFC. It's just the best division in the NFC. And right now, according to our respondents,
which can be considered the best in the NFL.
It could be. The NFC East right now. You've got the Cowboys who are coming to Lambeau. Yeah, you've got the Eagles who are undefeated. And listen, the Washington Commanders, they were just a hair away from beating those Vikings and going above 500, right? That would have put the Commanders at 5-4 if they would have won on Sunday.
Yeah, and obviously the Packers are playing the Cowboys coming up this weekend. I'm guessing that we're all saying that the Cowboys are going to be notching another win.
Whoa, yeah, that's one of those. Yes, the Cowboys are going to beat the Packers. That's for sure. I can't, as a fan, I can't even look at the number. I can't because I'll be too tempted, and I might wait until Sunday morning, like I've been doing this season, because I stay away from betting against the Packers until the day of the game. And then my reason, it overrides my heart. My reason says, like I did against Detroit on Sunday,
you want to make money. That's your reason.
I want to make money. And this team right now is not playing well. And they look like they're getting progressively worse by the game, that's the other thing about the Packers as we look at this season. Because yesterday I went back and forth, Chad, with a number of different folks on Twitter and on Facebook, because we had the conversation about whether or not the Packers should bench Rodgers, move Jordan Love into quarterback, just see what they got. And get draft picks. And there was a lot of pushback. But here's the thing. If there was anything that indicated to me as a fan that there was something to turn around this season, I would be 110% for it. I would. Chad, it's like looking at the 49ers. The season started off, you lose Trey Lance, but Jimmy Garoppolo comes back. And then they're the walking wounded for a number of weeks. They were without, I think, 11 starters for the game against the Falcons, both offensive and defensive. Then you get this trade for Christian McCaffrey, and you start to think this season might not be over. Like there could still be some ways to make this work. The Green Bay Packers have none of those things going for them right now. And when you start to look at the metrics of where they're at, it just goes down and down and down. That's why I cannot see any way that this team makes a run. I really can't. Now, could it happen? Sure, anything could. We could find out today that aliens are real and have been living amongst us, but hiding themselves in ultraviolet, suits that we can't see, but our cats can. That's possible. It's possible.
Birds aren't real, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Birds could not be real. That's, I suppose, theoretically possible. It's not bloody likely, but it's theoretically possible.
And for Green Bay, it only gets worse with all the injuries that are stacking up. But I do believe I read somewhere where Aaron Jones, his left ankle, he'll probably be good to go for the game against the Cowboys. Rashawn Gary is out for the rest of the season. We know that, right?
Yes.
I believe Romeo Doubs injured his right ankle. Quarterback Eric Stokes injured his right knee and ankle. So, I mean, it couldn't be much worse. And then the fact that they're playing the Cowboys, right? I mean, you come off losing to the Lions. Now you're playing the Cowboys. It's just an uphill battle all the way.
Yeah, it's not a good spot to be in for the Green Bay Packers. And this is why, again, as a fan, and this becomes tough because if you're a real fan, and I like to think that I've become more and more of a real fan, you love the team. Players they're transposable, and you'll never have a player forever. Like, that just won't happen.
No,
if you love the team, you love the team. I think that if you're a real team guy today, despite what your feelings might be about sticking up for Aaron Rodgers, if you're a real team guy, the best thing for the team is to keep that fucking guy healthy so that he's still a tradable asset or he can still play. And the second thing you need to do is get draft picks. That's it. The NFL really is built on draft picks. The Green Bay Packers, Chad, maybe more than most teams, I wouldn't say any team, but maybe more than most teams in the NFL have a particular modus operandi: draft and develop. Okay, cool. So if that's your modus operandi, draft and develop, this season is over. It's over. Pack it up. You have to start thinking about it from a very unemotional perspective. This is the best thing for the team. And it's the best thing for Aaron Rodgers, because if, in fact, Rodgers has no offensive weapons, he's got a left tackle in David Bakhtiari that really can't play anymore. Well, what are we, as a team, what are we doing to benefit this guy? How does that help him? It doesn't. The best thing you could do is throw the test crash dummy, Jordan Love, out there, let him get banged up for the rest of the season, right? And then you restack the deck next year. You already fucked this thing up. This thing's done. It's over with. Okay, don't make a bad situation worse. Move on for now and tell Aaron, like you said, Chad, that thumb of yours is really, really scary. And, out of an overabundance of caution and pragmatism, we feel that we're just going to have to bench you from an organizational perspective. And that's just it. Tell Aaron it's out of his hands. The doctors have said you can't go. And then let's just get this thing over with, because to watch this guy go out there for the rest of this season, like, he actually might retire. Like, if he has to go through the rest of this season and look as bad as he does now, he might actually retire. Aaron Rodgers doesn't seem like the comeback kid to me. No. He really doesn't. He seems like, if you're not playing with my toys the way that I want you to play with them, I'm taking this shit and I'm leaving. That's what it feels like to me. So I don't know how much I would really do to sort of get him in a place where he looks worse.
This is going to be a true test of his character. We're going to see what he's made of, because this kind of adversity, specifically, I don't think he's gone through that I can recall in his career to this degree. I mean, he's had situations where he's been down and came back and all that. And I saw the post-game press conference where he says, we got to dig deep, and, we've all been counted out before. And I think that if we, come together, we can do something. But I think it's too little, too late. We'll see. And I'd be interested to know what Jordan Love's thinking right now.
Jordan Love's thinking exactly what I thought Jordan Love was thinking a couple of weeks ago. Oh, shit. Listen, as we wrap up, dude, it's true. I mean, he's bad. He's not a good player. As we wrap up shop, I'll leave it with this, because for Packer fans that think, hey, this has happened before, Rodgers has been in a tough spot. You know what happened the last time he was in a tough spot? They blamed Mike McCarthy and fired him. Now Mike McCarthy's coming back after watching this team win 13 games. Now Mike McCarthy's coming back with a fully healthy Cowboys defense, and he is going to fucking lay it on the Green Bay Packers. Mike McCarthy has waited years for this moment, and I'm sorry to say, Aaron and company they're not up to the task this Sunday.
You say he's going to pile on?
Yeah, that's a Mike thing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kyle Cable, One Trust Realty. Recovery Room, of course, Preferred Insurance, Midwest Mortgage Team, O'Neill Law Firm, Helping Hands Landscaping for making this show go. Chad, until tomorrow morning, have a great day.
You do the same.